What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and it was an interesting day of football yesterday. Somehow, the Giants, without playing, ended up taking a loss in the draft order, if you look at it that way. In other ways, maybe they got a little bit closer to the playoff spot. It's all depending on your perspective, but now, heading out of this bye week, the Giants are going to be going up against the Green Bay Packers, red-hot Green Bay Packers, who just took down the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. That was a fun game to watch, but now the Giants are going up against a team that's probably going to get the better of them, right? The Packers team is looking really good. Jordan Love is starting to look like he's developing into that franchise quarterback that the Green Bay Packers want him to be. So this upcoming Monday Night Football matchup for the Giants, it's a must-win game if the Giants are serious about trying to make a run for the playoffs. They're not that far out from the 7th seed. I think they're 2 games back, so if they get a little bit of help here and a little bit of help there, and they help themselves and pick up a few wins, the Giants can maybe make a push down this final stretch of the season, believe it or not. So this Monday night game, it all starts there. If they beat those Green Bay Packers, then we're talking. Now we're talking playoffs. If they lose, though, we're probably back to talking about the tank and talking about those top 5 draft picks. But there is something really crucial to keep in mind for this upcoming game against the Packers. There could be another change at the quarterback position. Tyrod Taylor was officially activated into his 21-day practice window today. He is practicing with the New York Giants for the first time in 4 weeks, activated off injured reserve. And so now that begs the question, who should start at quarterback for the New York Giants? Should they continue to roll with Tommy DeVito? He's on a 2-game winning streak. He's been playing some good football. Or do they go with the objectively better, more experienced player in Tyrod Taylor, start him out of this break, and try and finish the season strong with their primary backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor? That's kind of the question and the debate that we want to answer and discuss in today's episode. I'll, of course, let you know where I stand on the fence, and Alex will let you know where he stands on the fence, but I think we kind of share the same opinion here, and I think you guys might know what our opinion will be, but we'll go ahead and dive into it. But before we do all that, make sure you like if you do enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you are new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, comment your thoughts on the topics down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? How was your weekend, and how are you feeling about Tyrod Taylor returning to practice?
I'm doing well. As I was telling you before the episode started, I'm bye week, like, don't have to potentially watch the Giants lose this week, and I kind of tortured myself watching the Jets lose instead. I don't really care about the Jets winning or losing. Just watching that game was like, holy crap. We watch bad Giants football all the time. I subject myself to this. This is even worse. I don't know if you guys watched the Jets game, but my God, Tim Boyle for the Jets may be one of the worst players I've seen in my whole life. The guy in college threw 1 touchdown and 13 interceptions in his whole college career. How the hell is he in the NFL? God knows. But I'll tell you what, right now the Giants, we're looking at a really difficult rest of the season. We have to play the Eagles twice. We got the Rams, obviously have Green Bay, and then the Saints who, put up a pretty good fight yesterday against the Lions. And look, the truth is this. If the Giants don't score more than 20 points, we're probably losing all of these games, and that's unfortunately the truth. The Packers, some people will say the refs helped them out big yesterday, in which they definitely got some calls, but it happens in the NFL. This is the way it goes. The Giants rarely get those type of calls, so we're probably going to be on the opposite end of that. And now the NFL is probably seeing this Green Bay Packers team as a really fun team to watch, a team that can make some noise. They're going to want them to make the postseason. They're going to want them to win some of these games. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get some calls our way on next Monday night in prime time. But you know what? The Giants have a difficult stretch. It's going to be really hard for them to win some of these, to really get back in the mix. Now, we have the 7th overall pick right now, and we also have 2 games out of the wild card, and, it comes down to Tommy DeVito versus Tyrod Taylor. Now, let's play devil's advocate here and say, okay, you know what, Tyrod Taylor, what does he give us that Tommy DeVito doesn't? Well, you said it before. He's objectively the better quarterback based on his historical performance, because there is a history there is experience. Tommy DeVito has 3 games to his name, so there's really not much to recall. Now, Tyrod Taylor obviously stepped in for Daniel Jones, had a couple of good moments, threw the ball downfield pretty well, but he's coming off a rib injury, so who knows how well he's going to be able to move the ball on the ground, use his legs, take those hits. Is he going to be comfortable, trying to pick up yards on the ground because of that rib injury and maybe re-aggravating it for what it's worth? I think that there is going to be some concern there. I also think that you just won 2 out of 3 games with Tommy DeVito. The team is rallying behind him. The vibes are really good. Everyone's kind of supporting this Tommy Cutlets, this journey from a guy who still lives at home with his parents and, is showing up to like LPG's, Saturday football league. this is the thing that Giants fans are buying into right now. This is a little sliver of happiness and hope for us this season. And look, the truth is simple. Are the Giants going to make the playoffs, guys? Like, let's not fall. And I know everyone's like, no tanking, and I get that. Let's not fall into the false hope of beating the Commanders and the New England Patriots and assuming that we're now a good team again, or even a relative competent team. The Commanders are really bad. Like, really bad. The New England Patriots may be historically bad right now. Like, their offense, what did they lose? 6-0 against the Chargers? 6-0, guys. And the Chargers have been giving up like 20, 25 plus points every week, like, bar none. The Patriots are like the worst team I've seen in a long time, and we're freaking terrible too. And the truth is, like, we beat two really bad teams, and now we're going up against some really good teams, if not like just solid teams. Green Bay Packers, maybe not really good, but they're a solid team. They're a much better team than the Patriots and Commanders. It's going to take a miracle for us to beat some of these better clubs. Like, that's the unfortunate truth. Am I saying that we shouldn't try? Of course we should try. But the truth is, like, I'm not falling into this false hope of beating two bad teams and, like, suddenly thinking that we have a chance at the playoffs. Guys, I know we're 2 games out. Anything can happen. But are we really hoping here that the Eagles sit their guys so we make the playoffs in week 18? That's like the worst thing ever. Like, we're hoping that the Eagles bench all of their starters just so we can get into the playoffs. Like, then we're gonna get scraped by them in the division round if we even get past the wild card. It's like, it's a terrible situation as a Giants fan, because like, we're going into a situation knowing we're going to lose. It's just a matter of when. With that being said, Tommy DeVito, I want to see Tommy DeVito play for a couple reasons. One, I don't think the margin between him and Tyrod Taylor is astronomical. I think, like, we've seen him make some really great throws. We've seen him take a lot of sacks at times. We've seen him make some really nice plays and extend drives. And, that growth, I think he's getting a little bit better every week. We've seen some improvements from DeVito on a weekly basis. And I think that's something to be very encouraged by. And at the end of the day, like, he could be a really, really cheap alternative at QB2. Right now we're paying Tyrod Taylor the most money of any backup in football. You know what I mean? Like, I think that there goes something to be said. You can get a good, cheap backup like Tommy DeVito, and you open up that money, like that contract, $4 or $5 million. Like, that contract could be applied to half of Bobby Okereke's deal, or like half of a CB2. You know what I mean? Like, you can do stuff with that money. That money can be rolled over into the season and saved. So right now, in my opinion, Tommy DeVito, you get to see a player develop for the future, but at the same time, I don't think the margin between him and Tyrod Taylor is that significant. Like, are you really taking like that big of a step backward if Tyrod Taylor, doesn't play? I don't really think so. I mean, we won 2 of the 3 games. The team loves him. Saquon Barkley's kind of, infusing him with more confidence. I think that we stick with Tommy DeVito because the story's been fun. It's a little sliver of happiness in a season that's been ultimately lost. I don't really care to see Tyrod Taylor because the truth is he's probably gone next year. And if he's not gone, that's probably a bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, if Daniel Jones, we don't draft the quarterback, I'd rather have Tommy DeVito be the backup. But if we do draft the quarterback, we're going to have the most expensive backup in history in Daniel Jones. So it's like, that's kind of the truth right now. I don't think Tyrod's here after this season, and I'd rather see what we got in Tommy DeVito and let him build some confidence and continue to get this experience because he could be an asset for us in the future.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my mindset is at. Listen, with this New York Giants team, I know, like I said earlier, and like we've all been saying, yes, they are technically 2 games out of a playoff spot, but even so, this has been a disappointing season for the New York Giants. They have not met expectations. They've looked like one of the worst teams in the NFL this season, most of the season. They've looked like the worst team in the NFL for a few weeks here in this season. So I don't really want to go into this Week 14 matchup saying, let's get our best 22 guys on the field and make this playoff run. Yeah, I'd love to see it happen, and I discussed that a few episodes ago. If the Giants really get in the mix here for the playoffs, I'm all for it. Like, I want to watch playoff football, but what I'm really trying to do here is see who can help us now and then, right? Which players on this New York Giants roster would benefit from getting playing time now, help us win potentially now, but definitely help us win down the road. And because, like you mentioned, Tyrod Taylor on an expiring contract at 34 years old, he's not helping us win in 2024, 25, 26. Tommy DeVito, on the other hand, he might. Now, I'm not saying he's going to take over, become the starting franchise quarterback of the New York Giants. What I am saying is that it is very important to have a good backup quarterback that you can rely on in this NFL. Look around the league. How about the Bengals who are playing tonight? If they had a better backup quarterback than Jake Browning, we might not be talking about them missing the playoffs. They might still be in the hunt, right? Even take, I don't really want to use this example, but I have to. The Philadelphia Eagles in 2017, Carson Wentz goes down with an injury. Nick Foles is a damn good backup. You guys all know how that story ends. So it's very important to have a good backup there, and oftentimes you like to have somebody who's going to be there for multiple seasons, build into that culture, build into that scheme, and just be a holdover piece as the roster overturns. And Tyrod Taylor can't be that. He can't be that for the Giants. He can't be a long-term backup. He's a stopgap. And as you mentioned, if the Giants do add another rookie quarterback into the mix, then what? How do you just keep filling this up with expensive contracts? Because if they draft a first-round quarterback, he's going to be expensive. That's a first-round salary. And then Tyrod Taylor, how much is he going to cost if you extend him for an additional season? And then you also have Daniel Jones on the $40 million per year contract. So I would prefer to go the cost-efficient route in the future at the quarterback position with the backups. Tommy DeVito, he's signed right now on a 3-year, $2.7 million contract. His average salary is only $900,000. He's not a free agent again until restricted free agency in 2026. That's who you want to be your long-term backup. If you can get this kid to develop and pan out into your backup quarterback position, you're paying cheap at the quarterback spot, but you're getting something way higher than the contract value. So I want to see Tommy DeVito continue to play and continue to develop. There are definitely things he needs to work on. He is not a finished product. He's not even close to being a finished product. Has he had some really great moments these past 3 weeks playing for the Giants? He has. The Giants are on a 2-game winning streak, and a lot of that is because of Tommy DeVito. Would they be on that win streak with Tyrod Taylor in the lineup? You could argue that yes, they would be, but you could also argue that maybe they wouldn't be, because the way that Tommy DeVito played against the Washington Commanders, he was decisive, he took deep shots, he was throwing the ball downfield, hitting open playmakers, he was making some pretty ballsy plays, and that ultimately helped the Giants win. And I think that's what Tommy DeVito brings to this lineup that's desperately needed right now. That guy who's looking for the big play and creating the big play. So I want to see Tommy DeVito continue to do that for this Giants offense, find those big plays and hit on them. But I also want to see him develop the other parts of his skills, right? Because he needs to take more checkdowns. He needs to get to his first read and throw it out of his hands quicker. Stop taking so many sacks. There's a lot of polishing that this kid needs to do. And in my opinion, he's not polishing this up all the way by playing on the practice squad for the Giants and not getting hit in practice and basically practicing with gym clothes on. Because yeah, I know that the quarterbacks put on the pads, but you're not allowed to hit quarterbacks in practice, and his problem is that he keeps holding onto the ball too long and getting sacked. How does he fix that? By getting hit and having to get the ball out of his hands quicker in an NFL game setting, in my opinion. So I want to see him improve on certain things. The only way he does that, I don't think it necessarily happens behind the scenes. It sure can, but giving him that NFL in-game experience is the best way to get Tommy DeVito to grow. It's the best way to get all of these young Giants players to grow. Jalen Hyatt has been getting better week to week, facing different cornerback matchups, different coverage schemes, and defenses. They've all been allowing him to sharpen different aspects of his game and develop into becoming maybe the Giants' most dynamic player in the receiving game right now. So I want to apply that same logic to Tommy DeVito. Keep him on the field, keep him developing, keep him playing well. And you all know, if you've been listening to the show all season long, I'm a huge Tyrod Taylor fan. I wanted Tyrod Taylor in the lineup in place of Daniel Jones way before many of you guys did. So this is no knock on Tyrod Taylor. I think he's a great, very capable quarterback. Do I think that he's a starting level quarterback? I actually think that he could be, but that's not really my focus here for the Giants. I don't want this journeyman, expiring contract, backup quarterback to become the focal point of this offense. I want this young kid who's breathing life and energy into this team and has an opportunity to be here long term to prove that he should be here long term. So I think that the Giants need to do the right thing with Tommy DeVito, give him the opportunity, let him continue to start. And honestly, I think that he is the hot hand. And there's an argument to be made where, yeah, Tyrod Taylor is the better player, but don't you want to play the hot hand if you're really trying to win these football games? Like, this team is rallying behind Tommy DeVito. He is on a 2-game winning streak. When this season did Tyrod Taylor or Daniel Jones go on a 2-game winning streak? And no, I'm not trying to overblow what the situation is. He beat the damn Patriots and the Commanders. I know that's not necessarily a monumental task. He completed that task, and that's better than you could say for a lot of other Giants quarterbacks or a lot of Giants moments of recent years. So I'm just feeling like it's time to ride the hot hand. I love the feel-good story here with Tommy DeVito, this Linsanity era, but it's a Tommy DeVito Giants football era. I love it. I'm enjoying it. I would like to see Tyrod Taylor get healthy and play football once again, but not necessarily for the New York Giants, because I think that Tommy DeVito has a real opportunity here to be a long-term QB2 for this team, regardless of who QB1 is, whether you're talking Daniel Jones, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May, doesn't matter. Tommy DeVito has a chance to be playing for the New York Giants in a backup capacity for a long time. Tyrod Taylor doesn't have that opportunity. So I want to see them continue to develop Tommy DeVito and see how he plays. But Alex, I do want to get the other side of the argument out there, kind of discuss that. This team wants to make this playoff run. I know that you probably think Tyrod Taylor is more suited to go on that playoff run. He is the better quarterback. How do you think that affects the locker room, right? Because I would say Brian Dable has made it a point of emphasis since he's been here to put the best men on the field every single time, right? Kenny Golladay was getting paid more than everybody. He wasn't seeing the field because he wasn't performing the best. So there is kind of this notion here that's attached to that where QB2 is Tyrod Taylor. He exited the lineup due to injury. Did he really lose his job because of that? Or is he still the best player, so you got to put him on the field? How are you feeling about that? Kind of like the vibe and the mindset and formula that Brian Dable has worked with. Do you think it's something that he needs to be consistent on, and that should be one of the reasons that he puts Tyrod Taylor back in the lineup, just kind of to maintain a truth in the culture of the locker room? Or do you feel like the locker room is just going to rally behind Tommy DeVito regardless, because he is the hot hand and he is a likable guy and he is a feel-good story?
Honestly, like I said earlier, the Washington Commanders make things really difficult for us to evaluate because both Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito completely destroyed them, right? Like, both of them threw like 275 yards, 3 touchdown passes, looked phenomenal. Both of them did that, right? Both of them did that against the Washington Commanders. But how do they perform against other teams? Now we see what Tyrod Taylor did against the Buffalo Bills. He threw for 200 yards, didn't score any touchdowns, and he got stopped twice at the 1 yard line and couldn't punch it through for the win. So, I mean, yes, and I'll argue like the counter would be he got them to the 1 yard line and they couldn't punch it in, but they didn't score. And ultimately that comes down to play calling, comes down to the quarterback, comes down to the playmakers, comes down to the offensive line. Everybody's at fault for this. So, what I'll say is this: like, I just don't know necessarily if changing a quarterback again for a third time is good for morale, is good for the team. You change from Tyrod Taylor, you go to Tommy DeVito, you win 2 of your last 3 games. Yes, you got destroyed by Dallas, but that was his first game, and we were just outmatched across the board. We couldn't hang with Dallas. They're a much better team than us objectively. So, I don't really place blame on him, which really just goes to show, by the way, that good teams are going to beat up on us. Like, bad teams, we can hang around and stay involved and stay competitive and win some of those games. But better teams are going to beat up on us. And I think that that's what we're about to find out this upcoming Monday against Green Bay, is that we're just going to get beat up on because we're not a good team. And I think that was kind of a facade, what we saw against those past 2 opponents. But, in favor of Tyrod Taylor, I'll say this. If you want to win now and you want to make a run to the playoffs, Tyrod Taylor probably gives you a slight edge over Tommy DeVito. I don't think it's astronomical. I think it's a couple percentage points. Maybe he's 10% better than Tommy DeVito. Maybe 10% is all you need to win a game sometimes. NFL football is a game of inches at times, and, sometimes 10%, extra couple yards results in a touchdown. So, if he's 10% better than Tommy DeVito is right now, coming off an injury, a rib injury for what it's worth, maybe you go with that. Maybe you actually, want to try and win some games. And I think that's probably what the Giants are thinking. We want to win games. And if Tyrod Taylor's a better player, then we're going to play him. But at the same time, we're going to see. Like, I honestly feel like we're going to get a huge bit of information from this. If the Giants decide that Tommy DeVito is starting, it's because they are also thinking about the future of this organization, not just about right now. If Tyrod Taylor starts, it's because they want to win football games right now, and they see that he is a better quarterback. I personally don't think the margin is that big between Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito. They're both backups. Both of them beat the crap out of the Washington Commanders. One of them's coming off a significant rib injury and hasn't played in 4 weeks, and one of them just won 2 of the last 3 games, and that's the momentum. Team's feeling good. Team's feeling confident. They're buying into the hype. They're buying into his aura and that whole concept and the Isaiah Hodgins doing the cutlet, doing the Italian type of thing. I feel like the whole organization is buying into this era of Tommy DeVito, this kind of couple of games, and I feel like it's giving them a little bit of spark of happiness, a little bit of spark of motivation and potential and confidence. Maybe that's more important than Tommy DeVito, than Tyrod Taylor starting, and the marginal difference between those two players. What do you think about that? Like, how much better do you think Tyrod Taylor is to Tommy DeVito? Like, significantly? Personally, right now, I just don't think it's like a significant difference, and significant enough to potentially compromise the confidence this team has built over the last 2 weeks.
Honestly, yeah, I think it is kind of significant. He's a 34-year-old, 13-year NFL veteran. He's been to the playoffs as a starting quarterback. Like, Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback. Like, he's a good player. It probably is a pretty significant difference between he and Tommy DeVito. But what I will say is Tommy DeVito is just playing well. Like, it's the hot hand thing for me. You've got Tyrod Taylor, who hasn't played football in 4 weeks, hasn't practiced in 4 weeks, coming off of an injury. I don't expect him to be in form. I expect him to be a little bit sluggish. This team is kind of picking up steam here and is kind of, hitting a third gear that they didn't have earlier in the season. And to kind of thwart that by pulling the hot hand out of the lineup and plugging Tyrod Taylor in, that's what I think would be damaging here. It's not the fact that I think that it's negligible, the difference between the two players. I don't think that's the case. I think Tyrod Taylor is the better player, but Tyrod Taylor has not played football in a month. He hasn't thrown a ball. He hasn't practiced. He hasn't been doing these things that Tommy DeVito is doing every single day, meanwhile also winning NFL games. So for me, it's not really a difference in talent because there is a big difference in talent. I think that Tyrod Taylor is the better football player. It's really just more of a difference of being in form and ready to go. Tommy DeVito is ready to go. He's playing well. He's excited. He's having the best time of his life right now. And he wants to continue riding that high. And the Giants, they've been playing a lot better. They've been in close games. They've been winning some games. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that Tommy DeVito is in the lineup. And so I think that they would like to just keep riding that high and stick with the best player available for the moment. Now, again, the best player available, generally speaking, yeah, it's Tyrod Taylor. But right now, Tyrod Taylor, without playing football for a month, I don't know if he's ready to go the same way that Tommy DeVito is. So that's why I favor Tommy DeVito for both short-term and long-term purposes. It's not just the fact that I want to see Tommy DeVito develop into the long-term backup of this team. That's 100% true. I want to see that happen, and I think that's one of the reasons that they should keep him on the field. But the other reason being, Tyrod Taylor hasn't played football in a month. Tommy DeVito has been playing football for the last month, has been winning some football games and playing some good football in this month. So, therefore, you got to stick with the high hand, stick with the guy who's actually warmed up or ready to go, practiced, and in form. That's how you're going to win football games down this stretch if that's your main priority, which it is for the New York Giants. And that's also how you're going to develop a young rookie talent into being a solid contributor in the future. So those are my thoughts on Tommy DeVito, on Tyrod Taylor. It's an interesting discussion. Of course, we'll see how it develops throughout the week. We'll see where Tyrod Taylor is physically. He's returning to practice. That doesn't actually necessarily mean that he's going to be ready to play this upcoming Monday. It's kind of the assumption because it didn't sound like the injury was all that significant. But really, though, there is a chance that he's not ready until next week. It's a 21-day practice window that they opened. He could go through all 21 days and not be healthy. I think that he'll be ready very soon. But, of course, we'll continue to update you on the injury status of Tyrod Taylor, Tommy DeVito, how he's playing in practice, and, how he's getting ready for the game, and everything else surrounding the New York Giants right here on Fireside Giants. So, make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you listen on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, we will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.